I'm a specialist in relationships, and so I like to do a foresight today called Putting the R Back into Relationships. Let me ask you a question. Raise your hand if you are in a relationship at the moment. Yeah?
Because it can't be married.
You better say.
Well, it's an interesting thing, isn't it? Because everybody should have their hands raised, and everybody did, because we're all in relationships all the time. Even if that's just the relationship that you have with the person that you've just swapped a business card with to do a one-to-one later, it's still a relationship. And the definition of a relationship in the Oxford Dictionary is the way in which two or more people or things are connected, or the state of being connected. So we're all in relationships all the time, with our partners, with our family, with our friends, and what I call a fraternity, people that we work with, colleagues, and those people around us in social situations. But it's one of those things where, okay, you all put your hands up and said yes, you were in a relationship, but we kind of make assumptions in life about what words mean. So whereas quite rightly or wrongly you assumed that I was talking about being in a relationship with a partner, perhaps a romantic or long-term relationship, a sexual relationship, that was actually an assumption, because it didn't have to be like that. It could have been anything else. And that's something that is perhaps sometimes causes conflict in relationships, is where we make assumptions about what the other person is saying to us. So let's just do a little experiment for a moment. Sit back in your seats, relax, take a few deep breaths. Does everybody know about 7-11 breathing? It's a way of relaxing. You breathe in to the count of 7 and you breathe out to the count of 11. So just try it at the moment. So take a deep breath in, pull your diaphragm right up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then push it out right through, count right through to 11. It takes quite a bit of practice to get it right through, and you have to push your diaphragm right out. But it's a way of relaxing. So in that relaxed state, what I'd like you to do is just close your eyes for a second, and I want you to see a bridge. Okay? So open your eyes. So would anybody like to tell me about the bridge that they saw when I said see a bridge?
It was the one outside.
You saw the one outside, in your mind's eye. Can you describe, because I'm not from around here, so I don't know. So
it's
what
a
kind of
footbridge
bridge?
with glass panels. Glass panels. Which often get broken.
A footbridge with glass panels that often get broken. And you see it regularly because it's just outside there. Okay.
It was the Golden Gate Bridge.
Golden Gate Bridge.
I saw that.
So when you see the Golden Gate Bridge, what do you see?
A vast expanse of bridge that's bright orange and constantly being painted. It was sort of blue skies behind and a ship sailing under.
Okay, so it's a vast expanse of bridge. It's constantly being painted. It's got blue. You can see blue skies behind it and things sailing under it. Anybody got anything different to that?
Sort of bridge over waters.
Okay. But can you tell me about your bridge over troubled waters?
Yeah, it was very rickety, and the sea was like smashing.
Okay, so you've got a rickety bridge that was a bridge over troubled waters. So we've just had, what, 3, 4 examples of, I just said one word and you all came up with a different picture. And I use that exercise, it's part of an exercise that I do when I'm working with organisations. I sometimes work within organisations with teams, with different departments, trying to get them to build their relationships with their colleagues. And we do that exercise as part of it because you start to see that actually words that you say don't necessarily mean the same for the other person who's receiving them. And that can cause conflict and problems within relationships. So have you ever found yourself in a relationship and thought, well, I'm at a crossroads at the moment? You know, that kind of relationship where you're thinking, well, do I go, do I stay? What do I need to do? Are we going to stick together? And you find yourselves at this crossroads. Well, most of the clients that come to see me are in that place. They're at some sort of crossroads. They're not sure what they want to do. They know that their relationship isn't right, but they're not sure how to put it right. And so my job is to help them to try to get there. My job is to help them to start to do things in a different way. And one of the ways that I do that is by what I call, over the years, what I've experienced as helping them to, there are 6 things that I know that will help them to build that relationship back up. And the first of those is to build a bridge. Now you might be thinking, what does she mean by that? But if you're in that relationship and you're struggling and there are problems and you're not sure, and maybe a metaphor that I use is you're standing on the side of a river. And on this side, things are really bad. And perhaps you're struggling with, you disagree about the finances, or maybe one of the parties is having an affair, or perhaps you're disagreeing about how to bring the children up, or who does the household chores, who puts the bin out. Maybe there's a problem in the intimate side of a relationship, and you have different expectations and different needs within that category. But you're standing on this riverside over here. But over there, on the other side of the river, you can see people in similar relationships who are happy, who are doing what they want to do, who are talking to each other, listening to each other, who are working together as a team to bring the children up, who share the finances. So would you agree that it is a reasonable thing to say that if you're over here in this unhappy place and you want to be over here on the other side of the river, that you need to build a bridge? Yes or no?
Yep.
Yeah, seems a reasonable thing. So that's part of what I do as a relationship specialist, is help people to start to build that bridge. And one of the first things that we do is to explore how they got to that place in the first place. How did they get into this difficult place? And that might be looking at the past. It might even go as far back as looking at people's childhood, because we're all influenced by the people around us as we grow up. We have rules for life and values and beliefs passed down to us by our parents, our caregivers, our grandparents, aunts, uncles, and they all get absorbed into the unconscious mind. And that can affect how we view relationships. Because if we've had a certain set of values passed down to us, that may well become our expectation of relationships in adult life. If you've got 2 people who've got completely different backgrounds and a completely different, unique set of circumstances and expectations, then that can start to cause conflict. The next thing that I know that needs to be worked on to help to build that bridge to get from one side of the river to the other is the communication skills. And we talk a lot about communication skills in business and people having better communication skills. But actually, communication is just as important in our personal lives as well. and how we communicate with our partners. And to give you an example of one of the things that I do with couples who come in, is we do an exercise called a dialogue. Now, a dialogue is about getting people to slow down their communication. Because actually what we're doing, especially if we're in an argument situation, what we do is we tend not to listen to what the other person is saying. We're not giving them 100% attention. Because actually, whilst my partner might be saying something to me, I'm already formulating my argument for it, so I'm not listening. So I get couples to do this exercise called the dialogue, and they have to actually kind of stand up and face each other and look each other in the eye. And that can be an interesting experience as well, because a lot of couples haven't looked each other in the eye for a long time. They have to look each other in the eye, and they sit down, they move their chairs and they sit down, actually kind of facing each other quite close, and they look each other in the eye. One is the sender, one is the receiver. And the sender has to say what they want to say. Maybe it's a frustration. We usually start off by just doing something really simple, like something that they've done at the weekend, or depending on who the couple is and their circumstances, I might tell the other person a frustration that you have. But they have to break it down into small chunks, that they say a little piece and then the receiver has to repeat it back. And then they have to check in and say to the sender, did I get that right? Have I understood correctly? The sender can say, yes, you did, or they can say, no, you haven't listened, you haven't got it right, and repeat it and do it again. So they have to break down the conversation into small chunks and repeat it back and check in that they've understood. A lot of people find that really clunky, and it is to start off with, but trust me, it is a really valuable exercise. And it's one that you might like to try at home, because it actually makes you stop and slow down and listen, because you're going to have to repeat it back, so you listen to what the other person's saying. And the final part of the exercise, when the couple have got that sorted out, is to get the receiver to actually add some empathy. That's not saying that they agree with what the other person has said, but putting themselves in their shoes and actually being able to say, well, yeah, I can see that that's difficult for you. I can see that that might upset you. So putting some empathy in. So learning to communicate how to meet each other's needs is a really important part of the process. The next one is outcome. So actually deciding, a couple who are struggling in a relationship, actually deciding what their outcome is. What's their vision for the future? What do they want out of this relationship? If you think about it, we often, in our personal relationships and in our personal lives generally, we think about the things that we don't want in life rather than the things that we do want. So I get people coming in to me saying, I don't want to argue all the time. I don't want to have to think about whether he's picked his pants up off the floor. I'm sure you all do, but some people don't. You'd be surprised what I hear in my office. But the thing about it is people are talking about the things that they don't want rather than what they do want. So I'll ask you a question. Would you go to Sainsbury's with a shopping list of things that you don't want?
No. We end up out with it.
Would you go to Sainsbury's or Tesco's or Waitrose, whichever is your preferred option, with a list that says, I don't want bread, I don't want butter, I don't want sausages? Because it would be really hard to do your week shopping. It would take a long time. But strangely, we do that in our professional lives, in our personal lives and professional lives. How many times in your business do you think about the things that you don't want to do rather than the things that you do want to do. So one of the things that I do with couples is get them to actually go away, write down 10 sentences of things that they do want. And they do it in the present tense, because statistics show that if you write something in the present tense, it's more likely to happen. Remember that for your business goals as well. If you write it in the present tense, it's more likely to happen. So they go away, they write their 10 sentences, and they come back, and then they negotiate between the 20 sentences that they have between them, what are their optimum 10 sentences that they're going to use as their vision. And then I encourage them to have their vision pinned up on the fridge or on the wardrobe or in the bathroom mirror, so that they see it on a daily basis and they know what they're working towards. Motivation. How many people in here have started a diet or said they're going to give up drinking on a Monday morning and by Monday evening forgotten about it because they've lost the motivation? I know that I certainly have, and I know at least one other person in the room has. So getting people motivated to stick with working on their relationship and educating them so that I give people new tools, new resources, point them in the direction of videos, YouTube, all sorts of things that will help them. So you might say, why is this foresight called the 4 R's? Well, because I believe in putting the R back into relationships is about building rapport, getting the couple to build rapport and to talk to each other, to actually listen and understand each other. It's also about reawakening the senses and the sensuality. Sometimes it's just about getting people to do things in a slightly different way, or to make little promises to each other that they will do something once a week. Maybe give your partner a back massage or something like that. It just starts to reawaken the sensualities, because often we have forgotten about how to speak to our partner or how to touch them. Resolving conflict. So a quick tip here. I know that I'm running out of time, but something that I do is to get couples to think about conflict is when they find themselves getting into an argument situation, is to use something called stop. And that is literally for one or the other of them to say stop, which is the S. T is take time out, go away, think about it. But you have to agree what the timeout is going to be. Is it going to be half an hour? Is it going to be an hour? Is it going to be 24 hours? But you go away and think about what's going on. And calm down. Settle yourself down. Maybe use the 7-11 breathing as a settling point. Maybe go for a walk or a run. The O in stop is for owning your own part. Instead of blaming the other person and getting angry by thinking about what the other person has done or is doing, own your part. What did I do that caused that argument? And the P is for peace or positivity, actually finding something that will repair the relationship. I've got some handouts here that I'll put around the table in a moment, which just lists out the stop thing. Take it away, give it a try. Try it with your partner tonight, or in the office if you've got a problem there. And restructuring your relationship. So I help people to put things back together, to think things through. I'm going to finish today's presentation with a little takeaway. Not an Indian curry, you've already had it. I'm not sure whether that's part of the strategy when you get new speakers in, is you serve them a really hot curry. But yeah, a little takeaway. Oh, sorry, that is part of my Become Couples coaching program. You see, you said I could do a bit of sales stuff. I have a couples coaching program. But yeah, a bit of a light bulb moment, if you like. There's a quote. A relationship is like a house. When a light bulb burns out, you don't go and buy a new house. You fix the light bulb. Thank you very much. If you've got any questions, do shout out. I'm Leslie Downs, and I have a private practice in the centre of Chichester.